appeared on Howard Stern, where he said he'd even vote for a wall over Trump. Harris replied, "I'm not a wall, but I am plastered." New York Times opinion piece says we should abandon the idea of masculinity. "I'm way ahead of you," said one.
Joe Rogan and Greg Gutfeld just did something no one saw coming. They teamed up to take down Howard Stern in a way that shook both radio and late-night TV. What started as a small comment quickly turned into a full attack, cutting through Stern's public image like it was nothing. No holding back. No politeness. Just two big voices showing that Stern, once a legend, is now just trying to stay relevant in a world that's passed him by.
I thank God for Howard Stern, because he does make me feel normal by comparison. Because I'm like the Fox recluse. I don't do anything. I don't go anywhere. But he makes me look like, Pete Davidson on a...
Yeah, he's a germaphobe. Like, his wife rescues cats. That's her job, apparently, her thing. But you can get toxoplasmosis.
That's true.
Cryptosporidiosis.
AIDS. No, you can't.
But you can't get. But you can get.
I mean, what are the chances I get that again?
Because he had the affair with Jessica Hahn,
right,
who was the secretary, the hot secretary, and Jessica Hahn wound up Sam Kinison, and they had
I forgot about that. Yeah.
They had a terrible breakup. They would talk shit about each other on Howard Stern.
What do you think of what Howard's become recently?
Well,
he's the only person I know who's gone, other than Penn maybe, who's gone from being red pill to blue pill.
This wasn't just a joke, it was a full-on storm aimed right at Howard Stern's ego. If Stern still thought he was the rebel king of radio, Joe and Greg gave him a reality check. Look again, they seemed to say. Your crown's fake, and your throne's gone. It didn't happen all at once. It started slow. Joe Rogan, known for jumping from deep science to hunting stories without skipping a beat, finally got tired of Stern's latest round of self-important interviews, one-to-many lectures, and Rogan snapped.
How Stern can call snacking with celebs at a fancy restaurant exhausting. Exhausting. Like he finished the overnight shift in a coal mine, or hearing Kat talk about her pets.
Fair.
But I get it, life is tough, especially when you've been cut off from the world for 2 years in a $20 million beach house. I mean, you have no idea how tiring it is walking all the way from the wine cellar to the tennis court and back. Do I sound jealous? Yes.
Look, what he did, I mean, look, people to this day, they make fun of Howard Stern because of who he is now and the way he behaves now. That guy's the man. He was the pioneer. When he was the king of all media, and he was telling everybody to suck his dick, and the FCC was going after him, the government was fining him.
Yeah.
They were fining his businesses millions of dollars.
Yeah.
And he was out there doing wild shit on the radio.
He was putting a Klansman on with Young Thug
now he's woke.
If you're liking this video, hit subscribe and turn on the bell icon. These kinds of breakdowns are just getting started. Recently, Howard Stern has been acting like some kind of moral leader. Which is wild. This is the same guy who spent years asking celebrities about their waxing habits on air. And Rogan. He didn't let that slide. With a calm voice and that classic smirk, he tore Stern's new wise guru act to pieces. Like a cheap workout bench falling apart in a store. This is the same guy who used to brag about strippers, now scolding others like a health nut upset about loud blenders. The irony, it's thick enough to grill a steak on.
Is insisting on free speech. They were the motherfuckers that were censoring everybody. Right. They wanted to lock Howard Stern up in jail.
I was on Howard Stern's show. He was great at that time, and then he went woke. And since he's gone woke, his ratings have gone down the tubes, and he sort of went anti-Trump for a couple of reasons.
They sued him. His parent company had to pay untold amounts of money. How much money did Howard Stern's company get fined? It was hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions. Insane amounts of money. The government was trying to shut down a radio guy for talking.
He was very angry at MAGA. He said, "We've got to stop MAGA." And I'm saying, it's Make America Great Again. You know, it sort of doesn't work so well.
And now that's the left. It's just patterns, man. It's just patterns where people can justify certain behaviors because of
Howard Stern telling people how to live. Rogan could barely say it without wincing. That's like Ozzy Osbourne giving a TED Talk on proper enunciation. He muttered deadpan, devastating, and accurate. Just like that, the illusion of Stern's moral rebrand began to crack. Not because Rogan was being cruel, but because he was being honest. He wasn't mocking a man He was peeling back the performance. Stern now wants to be the voice of reason. After 3 decades of farts and celebrity cleavage countdowns. That's not personal growth. That's sketch comedy material.
Yeah.
And he was out there doing wild shit on the radio.
He was putting a Klansman on with Young Thug or
And
not
now,
Young Thug.
and now he's woke.
Miami.
It's crazy.
Trick Daddy?
Trick Daddy.
Yeah, he has to be, though, because if, dude, the skeletons, that guy.
Yeah, look at this.
God hates.
Oh, and she
No, there's
escaped.
also Hollywood Squares, but yes. They used to bring them back all the time.
Just when the roast couldn't get hotter, Greg Gutfeld showed up grinning, full of energy, and ready to turn Stern's fall into a comedy bit. He didn't hold back. He walked in like a stand-up comic with a mission, hitting every line with sharp timing. He joked that Stern went from rock star to lecture-happy cardigan guy. Howard Stern now acts like your aunt who watched one climate documentary and won't stop talking about it at Thanksgiving, he said, laughing. Then came the kicker. Gutfeld compared Stern to a wolf who gave up and became a poodle. Same look. No bite, just barking. Instead of howling at the moon, Stern now lectures it about being offensive. The crowd loved it not just because it was funny, but because it felt true. Stern, once the rebel voice of a generation, is now trying so hard to be liked, he's rewriting his own history and Rogan. He wrapped it all up with his signature mix of smart jabs and street-level honesty.
In Stern's previous career that could withstand this modern witch hunt that he now embraces. So this is a form of restitution. Maybe he says, if I'm woke too, the crocodile will eat me last, but they always do eat. But I get it. He flipped from populist to elitist because now he's with elitists. He's living in the Hamptons. What would the Stern of now think of the Stern of...
Rogan laid it bare. Howard Stern didn't just sell out. He morphed into everything he once railed against. The guy who made his name trashing censorship. Now sipping oat milk lattes with media execs at corporate retreats. He went from flipping off the system to applying for its internship, Rogan quipped, arching an eyebrow like even he was stunned by the irony. Meanwhile, Gutfeld was dancing through the wreckage, tossing punchlines like confetti at a satire parade. He mocked Stern's guest list, saying it's curated more for social safety than substance. It's like watching a punk rocker trade his guitar for a book club membership. He grinned. The only shock left is how boring he's become, and it hit hard because behind all the laughs was a truth Stern couldn't sidestep. He didn't evolve, he evaporated. Not like a rebel, aging into legend, but like a firebrand who quietly traded edge for approval. And Rogan wasn't just winging it, he had the clips. 2 episodes, back to back, full of contradictions and proof that Stern's transformation wasn't growth, it was retreat.
On his radio show, Howard Stern defended wokeism, saying it's a compliment when someone calls him woke. Listen.
If woke means I can't get behind Trump, which is what I think it means, or that I support people who want to be transgender, or I'm for the vaccine, well, dude, call me woke as you want. I'm not for stupidity, but I am woke, motherfucker, and I love it.
Oh dear, he swore. He swore that'll win over the woke.
Rogan pointed out all the contradictions in Stern's recent behavior, and he didn't miss a beat. One moment, Stern's asking wild questions on live radio. The next, he's giving lectures on ethics. It was such a sharp turn, it felt like Evel Knievel quitting stunts to become a school safety monitor. Just when fans thought the roasting was over, Gutfeld jumped back in with more fire. Stern's like an old magician still doing tricks no one wants, he joked. He used to be risky, now it's just balloon animals and safe spaces. The crowd couldn't stop laughing. But here's the thing, it wasn't mean-spirited. It was sharp, focused, and honest. Rogan and Gutfeld weren't just mocking Stern. They were showing what happens when someone loses their edge and pretends nothing's changed. They even joked that maybe there's still hope. Rogan said, maybe all he needs is one fart button and a stripper pole to remember the old days. Gutfeld added, I'll lend him a spine if he ever wants to stand up to power again.
Watch them on Saturday Night Live with the where they have Maya Rudolph playing you. I hate it. I don't want you being made fun of.
Oh my God.
There's too much at stake. I believe the entire future of this country right now, I mean, as America, land of the free, home of the brave. I think it's literally on the line.
So a guy who's supposed to be funny for a living now claims her candidacy is too important to joke about. This is a guy who once joked right after the Columbine massacre that the killers should have raped the students before killing them. Not that I like that Stern, but this pendulum swing from saying the most tasteless thing in the universe to putting your balls in a Tic Tac container. You gotta wonder what's going on here. It's striking that the king of the most misogynistic humor ever now turns into a breathless over a progressive, hopelessly shallow candidate.
Howard doesn't fight the system anymore. He sends it holiday cards. The crowd exploded. Stern's fans, radio silence. And that silence said everything. What Joe and Greg delivered wasn't just a roast, it was an exorcism. They dragged out the ghost of the old Howard Stern and forced his polished, corporate twin to squirm in the spotlight. This wasn't cruelty, was catharsis. Because deep down, people missed the old Stern, the line crosser, the disruptor. The guy who made the FCC sweat and said what nobody else dared to by the end. The room wasn't just laughing, they were nodding. In a world drowning in sanitized takes and performative punditry, it felt jarringly honest to hear two guys finally say what everyone else was thinking. But too scared to admit Stern didn't just get roasted, he got unearthed. His contradictions, his moral whiplash, his desperate rebrand, all laid bare in a comedic autopsy by two guys who still know how to wield a mic like a weapon.
This definition of woke, it's if you call someone a know-it-all, you're not complimenting them on the breadth of their knowledge. Yeah. You're saying you don't know as much as you think you know. So, yeah, woke doesn't have anything to do with vaccines. What it really means is sort of a slavish devotion to left-wing ideology and then repeating it so you can get social credit.
Right.
That's really what it means.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that you're smarter than anybody. And he had said in another part of this that, because I believe in the science. Well, if you believed in the science, you wouldn't be hiding out like Howard Hughes.
Now, Howard Stern has two options. He can keep playing it safe, carefully curated and polished. Or, he can wake up and bring back the edge he buried under years of fame, applause, and preaching. One thing's clear, Rogan and Gutfeld didn't just crack jokes, they reminded everyone why Stern needed to be called out. And just as things started to settle, Rogan leaned in and dropped the line that cut through everything. Do you even like yourself anymore, Howard? Not a joke. Not a joke. Not an insult. A full-on gut punch. You could feel a wave of silence, like a million fans suddenly wondering if the rebel they once loved was just a copy of the original. And Gutfeld, he didn't miss a beat. He added, Howard used to be radio's mad scientist. Now he's the sub handing out detention slips for saying crazy. It was brutal, sharp, and weirdly poetic. Like if stand-up comedy wore a hoodie and ran on Red Bull.
Fucked with him for 14 years. 14 years.
And that's not paid by the station, that's paid by him.
Find owners of radio station licenses that carried the Howard Stern show. A total of $2.5 million for content and considered to be indecent. Indecent. Like, why do you have those rules? Like, why do those rules exist? To keep obscenity from television and like... Maybe that was a good idea in 1950, when people didn't...
This wasn't just mockery, it was an autopsy of cultural decay. Howard Stern wasn't merely a celebrity. He was an icon, a loud, unapologetic middle finger aimed squarely at the establishment. Now that finger's more likely to wag in disapproval than flip in defiance. He's swapped rebellion for validation, shock for safety, and his trademark edge for daytime TV charm. Then Rogan landed a metaphor so sharp it should have required a security clearance. It's like watching the Joker turn into a mall. The crowd roared, but behind the laughter was a sting of betrayal. Because whether you loved or loathed him, Stern used to stand against something. Now, he just stands with whoever's trending, careful not to lose his place at a Hamptons dinner party. Gutfeld wasn't finished. He listed everything Stern once torched Hollywood's hypocrisy. Political theater, virtue signaling, paused now. He said, he's all of them, ... in one package. You could almost hear Stern's old soundboard groaning from the afterlife, mortified. And then came the final blow, the line that cut deeper than any punchline ever could.
Do they still call it Sirius XM?
Still Sirius XM, and I've heard that it's Howard's money.
Yeah, but he has so much... Well, first of all, if he leaves, they're
oh, yeah.
Because that's like, how many subscribers will bail when that guy leaves?
Dude, I did Howard Stern show 3 months ago, and I thought he wasn't in the room, but the way they have that set up is you really believe he's in the room, like almost like a hologram.
They tricked you.
Dude, I was talking to Howard Stern, but he was in Long Island or wherever he was, Florida, and I was in
Rogan and Gutfeld weren't just roasting Stern, they were summoning him. Every jab, every punchline carried a deeper challenge. Come back, be fearless again, say something that cuts. Because what they mourned wasn't Stern's fame, it was the silencing of a voice that once sliced through the noise with raw, uncomfortable truth. He didn't used to care about sponsors, hashtags, or whether a blue-check therapist co-signed his rant. He said what others wouldn't. That voice now lies buried beneath PR statements, polished sound bites, and a brand curated like a Pinterest board. Gutfeld leaned back, grinning. Howard didn't evolve, he said. He got neutered by fame, by fear, by the same machine he once shattered with a sentence. And then Rogan, almost somber, dropped the line that stung more than any punchline. You can't call yourself the king of anything when your boldest fight is over your assistant's coffee order. Silence, then laughter, the kind that lands heavy, like a eulogy's pause. But Rogan wasn't done. He painted the last picture. Stern, alone in his mansion, echo chambers bouncing back applause. Expensive art on the walls, watching old clips of a man who once meant every word. That's the ghost that haunts him, not guilt, but irrelevance. And yet, under the satire, something else flickered. Rogan and Gutfeld weren't rooting for Stern's downfall. They were hoping for his return. Because they remember who he was and still believe in who he could be if he'd torch the PR playbook, ditch the fear, and reclaim the fire that once set the world ablaze.